Oh, hello, and welcome to Aldente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we continue the saga of Joey Fucknuts with Joey Fucknuts Takes to the Skies. So, yeah, as before, CadaverCommander is the author of the Joey Fucknuts stories. And also the author, I believe, of SCP-3885, which kind of sparked these stories, or which these stories are affiliated. So you can go check them out at scp.wiki. But I'm going to dive into a rundown that I have. It's a very short and succinct rundown, because as we found out, so the first story was pretty short. This story is a little bit longer than the previous story. So Joey Fucknuts spends the next year after the previous story. Joey Fucknuts builds a flying machine, building the airplane from scratch that he wanted to build. He does this tirelessly with only like 3 breaks of rest or sustenance. During the last of these breaks, he begins thinking, and that leads to worrying and anxiety. And then he's met by Awesome, his large mutant friend. Sorry, just the way, like, because the name is Awesome. It's just like he's met with Awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I love this. These characters. But yeah, Awesome arrives and like hangs out with him and inquires, not for the first, but the 7th time now, what exactly Joey Fucknuts is doing. They then share an affectionate exchange of friendship that only leads to amplify Joey's worries about leaving his kin and Vulture Gulch for this crazy dream of seeing the world beyond. He continues working and then decides to rest up and sleep in the vault of Vulture Gulch, because there's like this the town bank, and there's this big vault, and the people of Vulture Gulch know to keep valuable things in the vault, so they keep their most valuable person, the mayor Joey, in the vault.
Seems smart.
Yes. And it's there while he sleeps that he dreams of anxiety and worry, and has his dreamscape invaded by this dark presence, which is affiliated with SCP-3895, according to the link that is provided. But this evil is pushed back, and Joey is given affirmation of his cause by 2 large lizards. One of the lizards is a blue cyborg lizard. The other one is a red fantasy wizard dragon-like lizard. Both are from another SCP, that of 3435. Upon waking up, Joey continues his work and launch day arrives. He gives a speech to his friends in Vulture Gulch before getting into his plane, which he has modeled after his favorite plane from a book he read, a B-17 Flying Fortress. Against all odds. Like, let's just recap, guys. This Vulture Gulch and its inhabitants create ridiculous Mad Maxian cars and vehicles that explode upon activation because they are not engineers. However, against all odds, this plane takes flight, and Joey Steelwings, to which the townsfolk have renamed him after learning of his project, breaks containment, and we conclude this tale with a caption from the SCP Foundation's debriefing of the situation. Apparently, the on-site staff and agents at the containment walls were as disbelieving that the plane would actually fly as anyone else. They have since been disciplined for their negligence, and we are left to assume that Joey is still at large. And that is where we currently leave off with this story. So we're just gonna move on to everyone tolerates the grammar inquisitions at this point. So yeah, I actually have a number, like this one had a number of more grammar inquisitions than the previous ones. And I'm just gonna pull this one up here. So last story that we did, which was like the Ballad of Joey, or like Joey Fucknuts builds a flying machine. Yeah, we had a gamer had a particular issue with the link for the SCP entry, where it was on Joey Fucknuts, the like his name, where it should have been like something more affiliated to the town. I would say this sentence is a good spot to have a link to the SCP entry with Vulture Gulch specifically referenced. Like,
yeah, but this is also 2 stories in.
Yeah, but I mean, they can still
I
add
don't know
it.
what
Just
Vulture
because,
Gulch is by now.
hey, man.
You're an all-star.
Damn it. Get your game on. Go play.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got my next one here. This wasn't terribly unusual. Metal was altered and molded and beaten to form night and day in the poisoned desert berg by men and women that had forgotten how to sleep and knew only one thing: progress. So I feel like to form should be removed in this sentence so as
Nope.
not to confuse that it is metal that is being altered and molded and beaten to form night and day. Or at least, or if you're not going to remove the to form, put a comma after form to differentiate. Because like as I read that sentence, I immediately thought that is like the metal had been altered and molded and beaten to form night and day. Like
The
literally,
metal is making night and day.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But it's just that it's being formed, comma, night and day in this desert berg by men, and so like it just needs like a break or something like that to differentiate that it's not actually forming night and day.
Correct. However, I also think that sentence is a little long in general.
Yeah, now that I'm reading it, it is all that's all one. Okay, like it starts at metal, but like it ends. It's like almost like 3 lines of words. So
Yeah, I'd break it
right.
right here, just so it'd be metal was altered and molded and beaten to form night and day. See, like even with a comma in there, it still seems
Comma, night
weird.
and day. No, I think with a comma it actually works. Like for if you're reading it like naturally and not like looking for this.
Or if you go metal was altered and molded and beaten to form, comma, through night and day in the poison desert berg. Period.
Well,
and like the men and women of the town had forgotten how to sleep. Blah 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 blah.
maybe beaten into form would make would help.
Yeah, maybe beaten into form. Like add the in there just to like in just so it doesn't because as it is, it almost sounds like to form is like a is it an adjective or a verb for like night and day? Like you're forging it into night and day. Yeah, it's a tricky sentence.
Or just completely break it up. Just go metal was altered and molded and beaten to form. Period.
Yeah.
This went all night and all day in the poison desert berg by the men and women who had forgotten to sleep and knew only one thing: progress.
Yeah, I think honestly that would also fix our like run-on sentence.
Yeah,
to a degree. So yeah, and then my last one is kind of not so much a like a complaint, but like kind of a compliment on an issue that would normally to me be a complaint. So then he slept, his head heavy, full of thoughts, putrefied by doubt. And then we get like a little like horizontal line break, and then Joey finds himself in a familiar place. And then the dream sequence is starting, and it's all done in like present tense, whereas up to this point and like after in the waking world, it's done in present or in past tense. So yeah, like we've complimented the format of these narratives of Joey Fucknuts stories in like from the previous one. And here is a new example of that, because where I usually complain about a story switching tenses so like abruptly, this felt sort of intentional, sort of like a nice transition between the waking and the dream world. Like we do get a horizontal break line between like when he goes to sleep and then when he enters the dream world. But then we also get a change in the tense to present tense rather than past tense in the rest of the story. So it kind of to me, I like it because it actually helps. It further differentiates the scene to the
it's
rest
also
of the
all
story.
italicized.
Yes, there's also that. Yeah, so it's just like I like how this story it completely reformats the type and the font and such of that in this section to tell you that yes, this is a different location and scene than what we had previously, and then we're going to go back to that other place after by not doing what I'm doing right now with the dream sequence. So this is a point where like past and present tense are purposefully used like and switched around, but to benefit the story, I feel anyway.
You say that, but I have a grammar acquisition in regards to how there isn't a very clear jump back to present day.
Really? You don't notice that? Okay.
Well, I know where it was meant to be, because like there's a freaking line there. I get that. But there's no transition.
Okay.
It's like there's basically what happens is the whole dream goes through. Everything happens in the dream, and then someone says, "Go, Joey, we believe in you." Then there's a line, and then all of a sudden he's standing in a wide vacant lot at the end of the street. Like he didn't wake up and like with renewed desire to finish his work or nothing like that. He just all of a sudden just teleports to a finished vehicle and it's done. And he's ready to go.
See, I would say that is that's actually how a movie or a TV show would do it. Would just like it would fade like you can do this, Joey. Like we believe in you, and then like it just cuts to black, and then and then some time passes after the fade to black, and Joey sits there with his like the finished product that he was like planning on like and worrying about in the dream sequence. So like,
I mean, yeah. You say that, but it's funny that you say that because in my notes I wrote down, like a movie, I would have expected it to be like, okay, let's get to work, and he cracks his knuckles, and then that's when the montage starts.
I mean, that's like, I think this is the difference between you and me, gamer. Is like to me that is just like I read that between the line, like literally between that horizontal line, like between go Joey, we believe in you, and then Joey stands in a wide vacant lot at the end of Gold Street and sighs heavily. Like I just like the story to me, it didn't need that, but I guess to you it did.
I mean, because of how like metal this whole town is, I would have expected like at least one sentence telling us that a montage is happening.
He just pulls out his wrench and like a pistol, like a Resident Evil character. It's like, we got this.
Yeah, even just that, like I'd be fine with.
All right, fair. I mean, yeah, I'm not honestly like I don't disagree with you. Like it could be there. I just didn't really need. I just that's it.
For me, it was necessary. For you, it wasn't.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's all we have to say about that section.
Yes.
Or about the format of the dream and such.
Unless Mikey has notes to chime in.
Yes, Mikey, do you have a third opinion on this on the matter of the dream sequence and its formatting at least?
No.
Okay, you're just staying out of this conflict. All right, good.
Yep.
All right, there, Switzerland. No.
Wow.
It's a World War II joke, okay?
Uh-huh.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, I guess we will move on to Mikey's grammar inquisition, if you have one.
All right. So what I have this week is some short sentences, because I know how much we hate those.
Well, some of us do, more than others.
So I picked these ones because they could easily be tacked on to a sentence either before or after them.
Okay.
So the sentences are Joey stopped, something different, and a lizard.
Feels like we're playing like Trivia Pursuit or some board game or whatever.
Joey stopped something different. It was a lizard. there, we have a complete sentence.
Yeah. I've never seen a lizard before. What's this?
What's this? What's this? Sorry. I just thought thinking of that the Nightmare Before Christmas song.
Yes.
So in the actual story, so connecting it to another sentence. So Joey stopped, comma, it was time for a smoke.
Yeah.
And then Joey felt something, comma, something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next one, one looks like something Joey has seen before, comma, a lizard. So
yeah, like yeah, it's definitely some like a common issue that I think people or writers have sometimes, where like they want to like do the short sentence for like poignancy or like as a like to like draw the like the person's like why is this so important? Why is this few words so important? Or like kind of thing. You can also just get that, I guess, with a comma and like latch it onto another story, latch it onto another sentence.
Yes. And then I have a conjunction junction.
Oh, lovely.
And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
And one of these men, the mayor, was hard at work, but more tangibly, he shaped it with his fist, and he punched it again and again. And he had watched the sky for many days. But while Joey was afraid and confused and stupid, he knew that he was these things. And he refused to let them stop him, though he could feel them pooling in his mind like sludge. It was time for a smoke. But he was tired. It wore mismatched rags cobbled together to resemble normal clothes. It lumbered up to Joey and smiled with teeth like a row of moldy tombstones. And Joey thought it was possible that he was. But he didn't care. But Joey felt something. It was inside him, in his chest, in his arms and legs. It felt like the time he had tried to make battery salad, but good instead of painful. It holds Joey up and stops him from falling down, back to where he came from. It brings the promise of distance, whispers of places that are far, far away, and asks Joey if he would like to see them. And 5, there is Joey. But he has seen pictures on burnt postcards and travel guides from the old gift shop, and he has heard stories from when the scrapper teams used to come back from stealing from and scaring those people. And he knows that every time one of the outside people saw one of his siblings, if they weren't wearing a long white coat or thick black armor, they were terrified. And he is sure that they are going to be scared of him, or much, much worse. But this one is blue and huge and standing on 2 strong legs. It has metal armor on parts of its body and things that look like guns attached to its back and sides, and they are both looking directly at Joey. And Joey hears a gentle, powerful voice in his left ear, and Joey feels an old feeling once again. It is enormous. It is haphazard, unpainted, messy, and in all likelihood extremely dangerous. It is inelegant, clumsy, misshapen, and a flagrant mockery of aeronautical engineering. It was also an airplane, and Joey had never been more proud of anything in his entire life. It worked, but he built it, and he knew. And just wide enough. It lurched, it juddered, it creaked and complained, but it held together. It shattered the chains that held all things hard to the ground and roared in defiance against gravity. It rose higher and higher, the buildings and crumbling ruins falling away below. And for the first time in his life, he did not care about it at all. Finn.
Yeah, you kind of there's a point where it's like, okay, it's coming along, it's going nice, and then I just like you lost me. So like the story lost me with that.
Yeah, there sure was a lot of improper start of sentence words there.
Yeah, I think that might be the issue with like the previous story was really short, so it was not a whole lot of time to like make mistakes. This one being a lot longer, like the chances were a lot higher for this one to have for this one to have grammatically like problematic story or like be problematic grammatically.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yes.
All right, and is that your grammar inquisition?
Yes.
All right, gamer.
Okay, I got a couple left. The metal caved in further, period, taking form, period, becoming something that he understood as clearly as any man understands his god. You could just combine all 3 of those into one. I don't remember if did you talk about this one, Mikey? The metal caved in further, period, taking its form, period? Is that one of your combinations?
No, I just chose a handful of them to solidify my point, so...
Gotcha. Well, that's another one. He had waited for a very long time before dragging these pieces into the yard, period. He had thought for long hours, comma, before squeezing any rivets into place with his bare hands, period. He weighed his options and considered the path he was taking long before lifting any beams or struts. And a period there. Then it knocks down to a separate line where it says, and he had watched the sky, comma, for many days, period. And then it jumps down to another line. So I just find it's weird that it takes that one section out by itself instead of just leaving it with the rest of it. Because everything else is a list of all the things he did prior to making the plane, including the one piece that gets pulled out. So I don't know why it's out there by itself. It's like he did this, that, and he'd watched the sky for many days. But the sky one is by itself for reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like because like he did all that other stuff, and then time passed, and then he watched the sky for many days, and then he continued. Yeah, it seems like again like a lot of these. What I'm seeing at the beginning of the story with like all these like shorter sentences and like how they're like separated is just like I feel like it's much like how like the use of like clang like between like the paragraphs. It's kind of like used to like the separation is used to like kind of like hammer down a point, but in
Ha!
Yeah. I get it because sorry. Yeah, it's like I feel like it's written like this intentionally to just drive home certain like key points about like the narrative. But yeah,
I guess. But personally, I feel like it's all talking about the same thing. Him doing research and thought before he even starts making this thing, including him researching what flies around in the sky, which is he watched the sky for many days. So personally, I feel like it should be all together.
All right, fair enough.
Then my last one, an airplane with broad, sweeping wings rests on flat tires. I figured it sounded better resting on flat tires.
Yeah, where is that under? That's like after the dream sequence. Is that the an airplane with broad, sweeping wings resting on flat tires? So I think
it is resting. Like even if it's past tense, it's still resting on flat tires in the past.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
because rest is actually present.
Yeah, you're right.
Rest.
Yeah, I think that should have been resting. So that's actually that's a point against the tense. Aha! Curse you, tenses. It's because like before that point he was writing mostly in present tense for the dream sequence, and then he had to get back into past tense.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So he had to get back to the past like Samurai Jack.
Yes, Mikey.
That show I've seen many times. I've only seen it once. One episode. But yeah, that's all I got for my grammar and yellow.
All right. So we'll move on to actual thoughts. Boy, howdy, do I have some funny ones.
We'll be the judge of that, sir.
Yes. Here's the first one, and I hope you guys appreciate. I hope you guys appreciate this. He beat the metal against its supporting frame, welding it into place not with fire, but with pure physical force. He came at it with full force.
Yeah, it's true.
So as soon as I read that, I could not think of our first It story. So many years ago.
Yeah.
And then here's one where actually I took it out of my grammar acquisition because it was but it's just a word I learned. Working it cold so it kept its crystalline lattice and maintained strength without requiring any tempering or annealing. So annealing is a heat treatment process used mostly to increase the durability, the ductility, and reduce the hardness of a material. So I learned a word because I was like not sure. I know what tempering is, but I did not know what annealing was at all. So I learned that process. And then my next one here, he punched it again, each of his knuckles sending sparks flying. The metal caved in further, taking form, becoming something that he understood as clearly as a man understands his god. How? How did he cause sparks to form between metal and necrotized but mutated flesh and bone? Is Joey just an anime character?
Nah, it's metal on metal.
How? Metal on metal?
Because he's punching metal into other metal. And the fusion between the metal and metal is where the sparks are coming from, not from his hands.
See, yeah,
I had the exact same thought.
Yeah, I was picturing him like just like every punch is just like an ant, like Kaminari or Kamino from Gurren Lagann or like another anime series where like the character's like punching so hard he's creating sparks in the air and shit.
Yeah, this isn't Power Rangers getting punched in the chest with sparks flying.
Or punching like where the putties. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But like you guys know where I'm coming from though with that because of
100%.
Yeah, that misunderstanding. And then there's this one here. He was afraid. Joey was always afraid of something because he was a man who thought for long periods of time. Men who think cultivate fears as a farmer cares for his crops. Man, we are getting all philosophical around here with this story. For a story about dumb, badass zombie mutant metalheads living in a desert town.
Really.
Like again, it makes sense because out of all of the dumbass but badass zombie mutants in this town, Joey is the smartest of all. Like and the actual thinker of this entire town.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the like kind of contrast of like this zombie man who's all like philosophical, but at the same time he's like doing equally dumb stuff like his brethren and sisters. And then we get to this one here. From across the yard came a colossal monster, 8 feet tall and weighing nearly half a ton, with a torn rotted face and muscles that bulged under its skin like bridge cables. It wore mismatched rags cobbled together to resemble normal clothes. No trousers or shirts would ever fit its behemoth frame. This beast was seen frequently around town, tearing cars apart with one twist of its massive hands and pulling down buildings without so much as a grunt. It lumbered up to Joey and smiled with teeth like a row of moldy tombstones. This was Awesome, one of the nicest guys that Joey had ever met. Awesome said, "Hi, Joey. What you working on?" Awesome was visibly very excited to see Joey and talk to him. Awesome was always excited to do whatever he was doing at the time, especially if it had something to do with one of his friends, which was everybody. Maybe not so this may not have a regular human interacting with these creatures yet, but I would still classify this as a buddy horror. Sorry, I had to say this. First off, I wanted to read that entire like paragraph or two
because it's awesome.
Because it's awesome. the mutant zombie monster. But also, like, it extends to my point. Like, again, like it's describing this horrible monster in description, but it's a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's the nicest guy ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just like, again, like it's that. I think that's another thing about buddy horror, that like don't judge a book by its cover. Like, don't judge a monster by its rippling muscles and its decaying flesh.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then the next thing here, Joey replied, "Same thing as yesterday." Awesome kept smiling and nodding enthusiastically. Yeah. What is it again? I forgot. It's called an airplane. It's a car that goes in the sky. This made the 7th time that Awesome had this explained to him, and he reacted the same way every time. Well, I think this confirms why the zombie apocalypse didn't happen, if that was their purpose for existing here in the first place. Like, just how forgetful they are. Just to kind of like call back to like I think the first story and also like the SCP entry that we commented before, like how the zombie apocalypse didn't happen because they were just kind of dumb. They're so dumb they forgot what they were doing.
That being said, he only had to be reminded 7 times in 9 months, so he's not extremely forgettable. Or
yeah, it's true.
Rather, but yeah, he does forget.
And then my next awesome quote.
Is it awesome or is it an awesome quote or is it an awesome quote?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome seemed suddenly confused, his smile melting away, his voice, which had the timbre of a cinder block being thrown into a wood chipper, became plaintive and diminished. But Joey, if you make a car that goes into the sky, you could go away, like away. Joey, I don't want you to go away. You're my friend. Aww. Just like, like this is like big teddy bear of a mutant zombie monster.
Yeah.
And then my final one. This is the last of my awesome paragraphing. Joey nods again, and metal is really magical. The Titan's eyes widen, and he froze. Then he lurched forward and picked Joey up by his shoulders, bonking their heads together so he could look Joey right in the eyes. Joey, that's the smartest thing I've ever heard. I love you. He then gave Joey the biggest hug that ever existed. Now kiss. Sorry.
No.
I kind of thought that's where it was going to go for some reason. Like right before, and he hugged. It was the biggest hug ever. It's like, oh, okay. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, interesting.
Reminder to never hug the cultist. Got it.
Well, never like bonk our heads together and look me in the eyes and say, I love you, cultist.
Reminder to never be in a Krogan Mass Effect game with cultists.
Hey. Also, like I recently watched I watched something like very recently that had a similar kind of vibe at the beginning of this paragraph, where like he picked up Joey and like brought him closer, and I was like, and then he just ate his head, like bit his head off. But like then it wasn't, because it's like a giant behemoth monster like picking something up and like getting it close to its face. It's like, all right, so now it's going to eat him to gain his smarts.
That makes sense.
But yeah, moving away from awesome, as much as it pains me.
Of course.
And going into the dream sequence kind of thing. So regarding this, actually, I got pulled into my mind when Mikey was doing his conjunction junction stuff. When we get to the dream thing, and like Joey's like thinking of the reactions of the outside world like to him. I really like that we get like the SCP's like view of the outside world, or the world around them, and specifically like how the Foundation treats them. Like it's like he knows that like he's going to go out there and people are going to be afraid of him, or worse, like react violently to him because he's a monster. Like he's self-aware. Like he's like, I like that sense of self-awareness, and I like how they reference that like the other people in the white lab coats and the black armor, like they won't be scared. They're those nice guys that give us cars every month, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it just kind of like reminded me, it's like, oh yeah, like it's like nice that this story gives us kind of the viewpoint from the other side. Like we're not always seeing the side of the SCP Foundation and humans. We're seeing we're getting a glimpse into the view of the monster of the entry. So and then we go into this bucket of worms. The waves of slime pooled around Joey, turning the warm, dry earth he had been sitting on into clammy, viscous muck. The sun dims, and he begins to feel cold and wet and slick with the saliva of some great beast that Joey has never met and could never imagine. But he feels it all the same. Something bad. Something horrible. So, and bad is and bad in that last sentence is a link to an entry called SCP-3895. And that's a whole bag of worms on itself. Like weird. I feel like we should probably do that one as a separate like episode. Just because
is that
of
the first link?
Yeah, it's the first link. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I read through I read through part of it, and I was like, this is we could talk about this on a separate episode, honestly.
Yeah, I went to go into that one, and it's like, warning, do not progress further until you have like the mimetic shot or whatever to protect you from it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna not click on that.
See, and then that's you, and then I was like, click.
I need to make sure I set up my appointment to get that shot before I review that pasta.
Ooh, okay, that's a little close to home, buddy. That's a little too soon.
Oh shit, that is.
Yeah, you gotta get your first. You gotta get your first vaccine, then your second vaccine. Ooh, oh boy.
Look what it says though.
I know. You're not wrong. I love how like we've dove into this on not knowing, and I love how just like coincidental it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, suffice to say, from what I gleaned of SCP-3895, it's a nasty existential threat to humanity, possibly some kind of transdimensional invader that can manifest in corporeal space in a similar way to the Thing from the movie The Thing, or the Flood from Halo. Like it transmutes human bodies into like subservient, like into a connected subservient like horde. So basically, it's a transdimensional zombie infection. It's like the Infested from Warframe, gamer.
Oh, sweet.
It also has a potential connection to the trench cave from SCP-3983, which we've covered, and the floating corpse pile thing that like snatches people away that are like depressed. From SCP-3897, which is also what we've based on.
And those are connected to the Night Runner.
The Night Hauler.
Which is Night Hauler,
I've got
furthers the connection to the boss.
You're not wrong. I've got some things in this in my actual thoughts, like further down about that, and actually right here, actually. So yeah, and that's just based off of like intel that's extrapolated. Like those are two links that are brought up in SCP-3895. So that's where I was like, okay, this is a bit of a rabbit hole. I'm going to just focus on the story that we're covering today, and we'll cover the SCP entries at a later date. So this link so like I said, this link and the entry that we're given also makes me question my theory of the boss being the Nighthawk. Perhaps this thing is in fact the boss, or perhaps this thing is the origin of the Vulture Gulch undead mutants, based on, because like when it's describing like what it does to people when it transmutes people, it creates them into subservient, like smaller subservient appendages of itself, like not like connected physically, but like linked physically, like linked mentally, to a larger force. And the fact that it invades Joey's mindscape, like his dreamscape, the way it does, it almost reminds me, like it kind of reminds me of like what if Joey like Joey was cut off, but now that he's thinking like unlike all his friends, it's able to kind of worm its way back into his mind and try and create a connection again. But my Night Hauler, a thread of hope for my Night Hauler theory on the boss. Perhaps the Night Hauler liberated the folks at Vulture Gulch, and Joey included, from this main mass, or this other, like this threat that created them. Like liberated them and made them the metalheads that they are. Similarly to how he offers a third option to the individuals who go up onto the dais, like the corpse people that go up to the dais in the cave, in the trench cave. Like, yeah. So perhaps the Night Hauler is the reason that these spawn of SCP-3895, if that is indeed what they are, haven't sparked a full-on zombie apocalypse on Earth yet. Is that he liberated them, and like from that initial like purpose to make them metalheads. Again, making the Night Hauler the good guy,
as he
the
should
best
be.
Boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if he didn't do that, then they would be linked to like the hive mind of the other entity, which would just be puppeting their bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
Or because like they're disconnected, that's why they're low intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Because like, yeah, when you have like a hive mind, you tend to like have an accumulated mental capacity of the entire swarm, not of the individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, that's kind of like where I've been thinking with this. But there was a moment where it's like, oh shit, maybe this is the boss. We're like worming in, and it also kind of like, for this story, it kind of adds a lingering dread and some bad news for Joey and his kin. Were it not for the seeming help of SCP-3435, which, speaking of, let's just dive into that quote. Hello there, Joey. Joey looks up and sees two more things. Two more things is the link to SCP-3435. In this place that used to be warm and bright, one looks like something Joey has seen before, a lizard. But this one is blue and huge and standing on two strong legs. It has metal armor on parts of its body and things that look like guns attached to its back and sides. One of its eyes is metal and red, but the other is brown and soft and looking directly at Joey. The other is also like a lizard, but just as huge as the other one. This one is red and has enormous wings with claws on the end. On its frilled, spiky head is a pointed hat with twinkling stars in the fabric, and in its claws are a long wooden stick and a thick book. These two lizards are giant. They have sharp teeth and claws, and they are both looking directly at Joey. So I didn't look into SCP-3 or into SCP-3435 as closely as I did when I first started reading, like for SCP-3895. So I'm not exactly sure what exactly these things are, or like what they do, and like what their situation is. I think they're a Keter class is what I saw for their status. This is a very strange and narratively serious dream sequence for a story about a zombie who wants to build a flying machine and is a member of a town of like dumb badass metalhead zombie mutants. I'm just gonna add SCP-3435, to which the lizards are a reference and based off the link and stuff, and 3895 to our list of SCPs to cover. Like, just alongside those, because like those need to be touched on based on the descriptions alone we get in this story. I do also think I mentioned it off recording to Mikey right before we started. The introduction, like we get these creatures that intervene into Joey's dreamscape, and are introduced into the story. But unlike other SCP entries and even like stories that we've seen, where like they just drop a link that you're supposed to go to and check out, I feel like this story does something well, where it does drop a link, but it also then goes in and adds a little bit more context as it like as it's necessary for the story to know what like kind of like what these things deals are for the story. But like if you want to learn more about these creatures, there's the link in the story. Whereas I feel sometimes in other entries of SCPs and stories with the SCPs, when they drop a link, it's they just drop a link and expect you to do most of the work. Whereas this story actually does some of the work for you to like kind of know what this thing is.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciated that. And then there's this part. The Red Lizard says, "Nonsense, Joey. These are your brothers and sisters. These are the black iron boneheads of Vulture Gulch. Are they not heavy metal? Are you not heavy metal?" That is a hell of a Saturday morning cartoon title. Like,
yeah,
the 80s and 90s just called. They want their show back.
But they can't have it because it's our.
No, exactly. Like, I want that fucking show. I want to.
It's
I'd
like
watch
Biker Mice from Mars situation.
Yeah, it's like if you combine Biker Mice from Mars and Mutant League, which I've referenced like in the previous story, like together, and we get Black Iron Boneheads from Vulture Gulch.
Yeah.
It's like, goddamn! I fucking love how metal this story, the story and its subject is. But moving on, this is after the dream sequence and at the day of launch time. The crowd exploded in. The crowd exploded. Sorry. The crowd exploded into cheers of different flavors. Oh, okay.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past these zombie dudes. They do that.
Yeah, they just like hold up like pieces of dynamite and just blow up.
Go, Joey!
I mean, they'd be fine based on like all their previous pyrotechnics. So
exactly, they're totally fine.
But that's not the quote. Hang on. So that's not the context of the quote. So okay, the crowd exploded into cheers of different flavors. Some, like Awesome, cried. Others, like Chef, howled wordlessly into the sky, not having the words for how proud and excited they were for their mayor and friend. Some raised a chant, echoing an idea that someone had not long ago when Joey's plan was discovered. A new name for the mayor. They shouted it again and again. One, unnoticed by the rest, merely watched and waited. So I got two theories on who this other one is. A, it is the unnoticed person is an undercover SCP operative from the wall. Or B, and this is my personal favorite, it's the boss watching Joey's fine work and progress.
Oh, wow. I actually don't remember this part at all, to be honest.
It kind of goes unnoticed, but like I only just caught it. Like I almost caught it as a grammar issue because it was like, oh wait, this one other like crowd member, unnoticed by the rest, merely watched and waited. So it's like, and yeah, I think that might. I mean, my headcanon or my theory right now is that it's the boss watching Joey and his fine work, but. Because I don't know what else. Like, I mean, again, other than like one of the operatives from the wall, like around Vulture Gulch, I don't know who else that would be.
If there was someone from the Foundation, wouldn't they try to stop Joey from flying?
You did read you did read the briefing before, right? Actually, I'll go into that addendum in a second. So
no, but I mean, like once he's seen that it's working,
I just like okay, hang on. So.
Maybe he didn't. Just go ahead.
Okay. So from addendum 38503, after investigation, it was determined that personnel assigned to subsite 3885 had noticed this vehicle periodically during its construction by a single SCP-3885-01 instance, but did not take action, citing disbelief that SCP-3885 instances possessed the mental capacity to successfully construct a functional aircraft. Subsite 3885's administrative staff have been formally disciplined on charges of gross negligence, leading directly to a containment breach. To which, when I have in my legs, I love it. the bureaucratic shitstorm this event has caused the Foundation, and the fact we get a reaction from the Foundation at the very end of the story is great. Like it needed to happen. We needed that addendum
For sure. And
but yeah,
I like that it's not due to it being in Derplin.
No, it's just like, guys, look at their record.
Yeah.
Like, look what they've done in the past in Vulture Gulch. How were we supposed to know that one of them was smart enough to make a fully functional air machine or like
First
airplane?
try too.
Yeah, on the first try. Like, yeah, he'd been spending he spent a year on it, but we didn't think any of them he was actually going to pull it off. Like,
He failed attempts that the Wright brothers have.
Yeah, exactly. It's like like it was like several, like dozen, I think.
Mm.
But no, I just love because it's not like you said, it's not that they're from Derplin, like they're not idiots. They just didn't expect them to pull it off.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Why
very
would you?
it's a very human error like kind of like thing, but it's like on the end of human error that is like understandable and not like they're from Derplin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like, that's just great. Like that's why like they didn't stop him. Was they're just like, we're just watching and waiting. It's like, all right, let's see how bad this explosion is. It's a good thing I'm at the very back of the crowd because this thing's probably going to explode fantastically. And then it's like it flies like past Gold Street. I was like, well, shit. Shit pickles.
Smash cut to him being disciplined by his boss.
Yeah.
Like his boss is like slamming his hands on the table, like, you had one job.
Boss, seriously, look at all the files that we have on these things. How could we have known that they'd pull it off? Like, did you see the photos that we've taken of the explosions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it really is. And then my last thing, and it's just kind of a comment about like so like in the previous quotes I gave, like they've given Joey a new nickname or a new name. The one they now call Joey Steelwings rose up above all. Or sorry, the one they now called Joey Steelwings rose above it all and flew on towards his destiny. So wait, why aren't the future stories the saga of Joey Steelwings, or like why are we still using the Ballad of Joey Fucknuts?
Because spoilers.
I guess. I suppose that is kind of a spoiler. Yeah, it would be spoilers if somebody's like, oh, let's see how many stories there are. It's like, all right, so Joey builds a flying machine. Joey takes to the sky. Joey Steelwings. Joey Steelwings is obviously a new character.
Yeah, of course. There can only be one Joey.
Yeah.
So that must mean that Joey Fucknuts gets killed.
Yeah, clearly. He's not gonna break containment.
No.
It's like, oh god, I just think of that Simpsons episode, like, looks like it's heading off to sea. It's like of the giant, like it's like of a giant like mascot thing or something, or it's like Lisa's head on this like tree or something like that like topples over and just keeps going and going and it just keeps rolling away, and like no one's able to stop it. And they created they created like a folk song at the end of the Simpsons episode. And as it like goes on, like as it like hits the Pacific, it just keeps going, and it's like, and looks like it's heading off to sea. And it's just like, that's Joey at the end of this, just like he's just flying off, breaking containment. Oh god. So yeah, this was a bit of a trip of a story. So, but that's my actual
trip.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my actual thoughts for the story. So, Mikey, the Stands for Evil, you're next. I'm just waiting for the high to get like torn down. Because again, like we cannot have like an entire month of us being all super happy about a story, right?
I don't know if we have.
The pen's got it, or whatever that that saying is. The pin's got to drop.
The shoe has to drop.
The shoe has to drop. Thank you.
You say that, but as much as we hated quote unquote stories like Baraska and I Dare My Best Friend to Ruin My Life, I'm pretty sure we generally enjoyed them the entirety, like all the way through.
Yeah.
Like all of us.
I'm too used to being like torn down and being hurt on this show. Is what it is.
No, I feel bad.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
As I sit
masochist.
here
I'm not
amongst
being hurt.
fire, it's fine. Sorry, continue, Mikey.
Alright, my first note here is that the title of the previous entry works sort of better for this one, because the last one was Joey Builds a Flying Machine. And in
It's
this one,
Joey Fucknuts builds a flying machine. Thank you. Use the whole name. If we're gonna do this, use the whole name. Don't be such a prude. Sorry.
Yeah, so anyway, Builds a Flying Machine versus Takes to the Skies.
I mean, they're both kind of adequate.
They both work for this one, but the other one didn't work for the last entry.
Yeah, no, yeah. The previous
Just
one should have been
correct that
Joey Fucknuts, comma, build a flying machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could go Joey Fucknuts is building a flying machine.
Yeah, there's also that.
There's no finality to it.
Mm-hmm. But he actually builds one in this one.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, this does cover like it was almost like honestly like it would have made this one like 4 pages longer. So it would have made this a 15-page like story basically, but you could have just had Joey Fucknuts takes to the sky and like have build a flying machine as the like first section of it.
Oh no, that'd be way too many words. You gotta break it up a little bit.
All right.
yeah. Yeah. My next thought here is that there's not really any more details on the boss. There's some mentions of the boss in talking with Awesome, but all we get, as Cultist pointed out, is the unknown observer, which could be the boss, but we still don't know. It's speculation at this point.
Yeah. There's a lot of I agree. There's definitely a lot of speculation in the story. Like even in the dream sequence, like I was kind of wondering if that's where like I got the idea of like maybe the bad presence that shows up and it gets like pushed back. It doesn't get vanquished. Notice how the SCP the two lizard creatures only push it back for a time. They say they weren't able to completely like vanquish it from Joey's mind, meaning that there is some kind of a connection there. But I'm hoping that the boss, like the actual boss, is going to be the Night Hauler, and that like he's like a he broke Joey and his kin away from that other entity.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Again, it's all speculation at this point. So
yeah. And then I liked how much more metal this story added to the overall story. With the cyborg lizard.
It's pretty metal.
What's that Far Cry 3 DLC?
Blood
Dragon? Yeah, it felt very Blood Dragon to me.
Yeah, same here. Like that's in my notes. Like,
and, like you know what's really funny? I looked at these like Shadowrun.
Yeah, I have a note on that too. Basically,
okay,
sorry. I saw these, it's either saw them as a couple of legit dragons in Shadowrun, one being a cyborg and one being a magician, or like the way they were described, I kind of saw them at first like they were giant action figures. To be honest,
yeah,
basically
same.
like a cyborg Godzilla.
Again, like a 90s or 80s like cartoon crossover is kind of what it felt like.
It felt like a commercial for a toy line with just like the camera really low on the toys.
Oh god. Yeah.
Just red like cyborg eye action, and like lights up. And you got twin back cannons as they like come down.
Yeah, I immediately painted like that dream sequence immediately became like a very colorful like 80s or 90s like toy commercial with like cartoon like visuals.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like Kung Fury in a way, like when Kung Fury dies and goes into and meets that snake, meets that cobra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're breaking the law. You're obstructing justice. Sorry,
like jump kicks him. Yeah,
that's when Joey wakes up.
That makes sense.
Sorry for anybody who hasn't checked out Kung Fury. Go check out Kung Fury. It's only like 30 minutes long. It's
haven't
awesome.
You seen? Yeah. Also, why have you not seen Kung Fury?
Yeah, it is 80s like infused.
It's free on YouTube. Go watch it after you finish watching our show.
Yes, exactly. But Mikey, continue.
Yeah. And then my last note, which has already been touched on, is how the addendum at the end just sort of wraps this up nicely with the whole SCP being like,
Shit, he pulled it off. Guys, we got a containment breach. Oh, God. I feel like if we didn't I think I said it, but I feel like if we didn't have the addendum, this story would feel like I would feel like something was missing.
Mhm.
Especially for this being an SCP entry that we know Vulture Gulch is being blockaded.
Mhm.
So yeah,
it would either need to be here or at the start of the next story.
yeah,
To basically
the-
show the result of what happened and what the Foundation is doing because of it.
Oh God, I just had this horrible dark moment, or like dark ending for this whole series. Joey returns, and Vulture Gulch has been euthanized. Like the entire thing has been like just like as soon as the containment breach, like as per protocol, they just cleaned the entire site.
But they can't be killed.
I mean, they could be rounded up, I assume.
And potentially frozen,
Yeah, they could be frozen today.
They could be.
because fire does nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Fire does the fire. It does nothing. Yeah, actually, and again, going in with zombie fiction, like as an intelligent zombie fiction, they could have like the SCP Foundation could have like guns that shoot nitrogen, like liquid nitrogen bullets that freeze the movements of the zombies.
Oh, I see.
That was in one of the shittier sequels to the Return of the Living Dead series.
Or they just have Mr. Freeze on the payroll.
Yeah, they have SCP blah blah blah, Mr. Freeze, just like a giant walking cryo monster.
Mhm.
What killed the dinosaurs? Me.
Yeah, it turns out that is actually not actually Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like some weird double of
Yeah.
him that's stuck on there and like got so into the character that he just became Mr. Freeze legit.
Oh God, what if it's like it's actually one of the SCP-3885-01 instances that was like loose during like one of the scrapper missions that they do, and he went to Hollywood and eventually, but instead of like pyrotechnics, he's all about cold shit.
Yeah.
He's like the antithesis to the other members of Vulture Gulch.
And he's like in a suit all the time, so you can't really see that he's mostly decayed. I guess his head is okay, but everything else is shit.
That's why Joey needs to go out into the real world. Like that's his true mission, like the subliminal message, like the subliminal mission he's on is to go fight the anti-fucknuts.
Yeah.
Cause you get it, because like Joey Fucknuts, Jesus Christ, Antichrist, last name.
Nice.
Yes.
I didn't know Jesus' last name was Fucknuts.
Oh God damn it, gamer.
I understand now.
I know. Yeah. All right. So.
Yeah, that's the end of my actual thoughts. So onwards to gamer.
All right, gamer.
Yeah. So, based on reading the last entry, at the start of reading this, and actually by the end of it as well, I don't know why his name was / is Joey Fucknuts. Like he's the smartest among them, but he has like such a weird last name. It makes him sound like he's a moron.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really not sure. I think maybe that's. I mean, I think that's the biggest mystery of this entire story, of this entire series.
Actually,
Is
Well-
why Joey is called Joey Fucknuts. Like from a writer standpoint, I find it. I appreciate the not the contrast, but the it might be contrast, but the contrariness. Like
yeah, it's like
Joey
having
being
it's like having a tiny little pool or whatever and naming it like Goliath.
yeah, or having being a large man in a biker group and being known as tiny.
Yeah, I guess, but still.
He might have been caught in the back room with some nuts.
Oh, ooh. You had I was
Yeah,
thinking
no.
it. I wasn't gonna say it, but
Because they do name each other pretty literally.
yeah,
Awesome's
chef,
awesome because he's
awesome.
awesome. Chef's awesome because he chefs.
Flower's pretty in the eyes of,
Uh-huh.
of her peers.
Yeah.
And
And
so
Joey.
Joey Fucknuts.
Anyway,
I mean,
that's ruined now. Thanks.
it could be actually a not so perverse reason. Could be that it's like because of their lingo, like the lingo they use and stuff. He could have gotten the term fucknuts because that he is a mechanic, or he's more mechanically inclined, and so that's just kind of their crude way of like giving of naming him that way. Like it may
Maybe.
not have anything like perverse about it, like that he did. It's just like because of their lingo and their dialect. That's why he got that name.
Maybe he made this. He made like a new type of nut that he referred to as fucknuts.
No, like, see, I'm not even thinking like that. I'm like that specific. I'm just thinking like because he like works with like nuts and bolts and stuff like that to make things, and because he's the smartest of them, that's why they gave him the name Fucknuts, because like that's basically like it's an honorific title that they gave him, but it's nothing like he did like he didn't do anything specifically like gross or with nuts and bolts. He's good with nuts and bolts.
Or maybe he used all the fucking nuts that were in the town.
Yeah, that exactly. Like that kind of like that could have been the reason, but we don't have that in the story. So there we go. It is left to speculation, and it is the greatest mystery of the Joey Fucknuts stories.
Yeah,
Like,
or like
forget the boss.
Most of them
who he
don't
is.
really like. Most of them don't really understand how nuts work. So his name is like Joey Fuck ellipses nuts. Like fuck nuts. How do they work?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, like okay, hang on. To add on to like the whole like idea of again their lingo and stuff like that. I'm gonna pull up SCP-3885 to when the two are talking about that Viking brand thing.
Yeah.
Here we go. So this is from Addendum 388502, the SCP-3885 surveillance expedition, and regarding A and B. So this is after he's like, "Fuck, dude, you're a chemical." Pause. SCP-388501B picks up a strap wrench from the tool chest it is leaning on. B. What the fuck even is this? A shitty dildo? SCP or 8 laughs. A. Oh, Polly, you're so fucking stupid. And then it goes on about like it's a Norwegian flange rectifier. Vikings used it to put horns on their hot rods, which is metal, but also fancy because it's Europe.
Flawless logic.
And then B inserts the strap wrench into its mouth briefly. B tastes like a screwdriver. I think it's just a weird screwdriver, you idiot. And then
so we never talked about it. It really wouldn't taste like a screwdriver.
No. And it goes on. B throws the strap wrench across the room. I hate it. It's floppy. Whatever, dude. Oh, dude. I heard. And it goes on. So yeah, it's really just. I think it's just their lingo.
Their vernacular.
Yeah, their vernacular.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I like Mikey's theory is like they're just like fuck, dude. Where's all the nuts or fuck nuts?
Yeah.
How do they work? Maybe that was the first like inquiry that the rest of them asked like Joey about. It's like, fuck, nuts, how do they work?
Yeah. And then he figured out it's like you will be forever known as Joey Fucknuts.
Yeah.
Fair.
Or Joey gave them the birds and the bees by using a screw and a nut.
So smart. He knows all the things.
Oh my god. Yeah. So I know how I'm gonna be advertising this episode on Twitter gonna be. It's just gonna be like, watch us discover the biggest mystery of the Joey Fucknuts stories.
It kind of is.
Or tackle the biggest mystery. But yeah.
Yeah, we can move on from there.
Yes. Okay.
So the plane, the image. I know it's just like a reference image. I'm assuming that's not exactly what his plane looks like because it's way too clean. But I'm assuming it's basically that, just jank.
Yeah. Like it's probably. Hang on, I'm just checking the quickly running over to the that's part of the story, or to that story specifically. I just want to take a look at it. Yeah, like I imagine like that might be one of the photos that he saw in a book.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Like because he does say that he modeled it after his favorite photos from a book he read from their little library.
That's true. Yeah, I'd accept that. And then right out the gate, I like the escalating font of the clang that's at the start to show it's being louder and louder.
Yeah, and how it's periodically used between like paragraphs as like from the descriptions. Yeah,
you don't really see that sort of thing. It's usually just here's a bunch of words. So it's interesting seeing it like that.
Yeah, it's very like it's like this whole series has been like that, and I really like how they implement it well, like the use of like sound effects basically to kind of again like punctuate a scene that's happening in the story, or punctuate something that's happening in the background of scenes that they're describing.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, like because it's like getting louder and louder and everything, it's making me think like all of these stories are a first-person account of the the hidden guy in the crowd just taking notes of what he's seeing as he's watching Joey do all this.
Oh,
And it's
like,
getting louder and louder because he's like getting closer to his notebook. He's like looking in through the window to see what he's doing.
shit, you're right. Like clang, 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 clang. The sound. He's just like he's just writing all like poetically. The only problem is like the dreamscape. Like, how do you get the dreamscape stuff?
He's plugged into his head. It's fine.
Oh yeah, he's a specific agent that's psychic, and he's able to like dreamcast.
Yeah, there you go. Done.
Yeah, he's able to become an obsolete console.
Yeah, he's able to sync a dreamcast.
that lost the console wars.
But he became an SCP agent on the side.
Yeah, exactly. He's an SCP working for the SCP Foundation.
Especially like a human's body just with a second dreamcast for a head, just walking around.
Yep.
Now you know what to draw in the title art and confuse everyone.
I guess so. Yep. Mikey, you seemed like you had like a revelation for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, or it is just a Sega Dreamcast, so everyone ignores it.
Oh, it's
just
sitting
a floating Dreamcast, or just like a Dreamcast that just appears in locations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like a spider drone or something. Like it just sits there until it needs to move, and it sprouts like little legs, and like,
yeah, it's like a case morph from Eclipse Phase, where it's just like this like it's like they're basically the rough size and shape of a of like a computer of a Dreamcast or a computer tower kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But then they like unfold like, and they're used like they're basically used as like a briefcase kind of thing, or like you put it on your back, and then if you die on an expedition, you transplant your mind to that case, and then it pops spider legs out and tries to and runs for safety.
Dude,
to get your mind away. Yeah,
that is exactly what happens in the video game Void Bastards.
I'm sorry?
Exactly. It's a first-person roguelike. It's all completely cel-shaded, and it looks like an actual comic book. Like, as you're playing the whole time, it's all cel-shaded very well. And
nice.
When you die, you have this backpack on that disconnects from you. It goes back into the ship and goes back to base and hooks into a different body.
So that's basically Eclipse Phase. Like that, you could run that. You could definitely run Void Bastards in Eclipse Phase.
100%.
I might have to. That might have to be what I run whenever I decide to run Eclipse Phase. That'll have to be what I run.
There you go.
It's just yes. We'll call it Space Bitches.
Space Bitches. The story of that game is basically
god, because like the Fury morph.
Sorry, go.
Yeah. So, I was just saying. Yeah, it like Space Bitches actually work because there is actually one of the big combat like biomorphs in Eclipse Phase is the Fury morphs. And they're all basically just like buffed up like female genotypes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like basically like Valkyrie type character, like Valkyrie type badasses.
Realistically, though, I don't know how well that title would for putting it online.
I mean, whatever. Like I've seen worse online.
Have you?
I'm literally having to title like each of these episodes of Al Dente Rigor Mortis with a story called Joey Fucknuts. So
yeah. That's just what's called.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, moving on.
Those we're about to get like swatted by some tangent police any minute.
Yeah,
now.
They haven't shown up in a while.
Yeah, we've been pretty good.
Very well.
Yeah, it's because we separated and went digital. went online.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, while Joey was afraid, confused, and stupid, he knew that he was those things. I don't know why he keeps calling himself stupid. Like, I dare say Joe is the smartest zombie man in this town.
I would like to point out what the title for the next story is. Joey Fucknuts believes in himself. It's all about he's just not confident enough in himself.
Yeah,
and this is actually a coming of age story for Joey Fucknuts. Like learning to believe in himself and be his best person or be his best self.
Believe it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a zombie. Believe it.
Wow.
You did this.
I did. I'm not proud. Anyways, but he was tired. He'd been working for 4 months, day and night. Oh, I thought it was more than that. Doesn't matter. This was the third break he had taken. So just from reading that, I can see why the Foundation just decided to make friends with these beings. They're sleepless and immune to damage. Good dudes to have on your side.
They're Terminators.
Basically, because it says he was tired. So, like, I suppose they eventually tire out, or maybe it's boredom tired.
I think it's
later on he does go to bed.
Like yeah, I think it's boredom tired, or it's just like when they're on when they have a set goal, they forget that they get tired. Like they're too dumb to like they bend
You're too
reality
busy to think
around.
about being sleepy.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And since their bodies are so durable, they don't like wear and tear like us.
Mm-hmm. This next one is this is an awesome quote. So I have one awesome quote, I guess.
Is it awesome because it's fun and awesome, or is it because it's about awesome?
Yes.
The circle is now complete.
Awesome smiled again and nodded. Yeah, like like that one you read it to us. Oh, the one about the little boy that goes to school and he learns how to do magic and he makes friends and they do magic. I like that a lot. Magic is really metal. So unfortunately, I kind of have to disagree a little bit with awesome. I don't know how metal magic is, honestly. Like, don't get me wrong.
How dare you, sir?
Don't get me wrong. Magic is cool, but
Captain Solenum is like gotten chills right now.
Oh, he's furious with me right now.
But, I was gonna say he's turning in his grave, but he's not dead.
No, but he would be if he was dead. Like, don't get me wrong, magic is cool. I do love me some Space Ninja Mage Warframes and all that. But like, considering I think he just described being read Harry Potter, I don't think that's too metal.
He definitely read yeah, no, okay, yeah. Harry Potter wasn't too metal, but like again, think of it like from his like from like the childlike mind mentality that these guys have.
Yeah,
like
I guess
they would think that's metal, but like
Harry Potter, oh, he's metal as fuck.
Yeah,
he can like shoot lightning and shit. That's metal.
Yeah, just wait till they find Dresden Files.
Yeah, that'd be super metal.
But yeah, otherwise, I do kind of slightly. It's like, yeah, they were definitely hinting that they were reading Harry Potter,
the most metal book of all time. Yeah. Then this part is during the dream. One, there's the ground made of orange, warm dirt and dust. Actually, this might not be the dream. It doesn't matter.
No, it is the dream. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
it holds Joey up and stops him from falling down back to where he came from. So they came from underground. Does that mean like in some cave network under the ground, or does it simply mean because he was 6 feet under in a grave?
I think it means the latter, but it could mean the former. But again, these are these little hints that we get in the story about their origins, just like little bits of information. Is like, oh shit, like the author just dropped some truth down.
Like drop some very small truth.
Yeah, some very small truth, like some little like tidbits of truth, but still like it's enough to get me riled up. But yeah, I assumed it was like it's a reference to the fact that they were dead and then they were reanimated.
Yeah. So I guess if that was the case, I wonder how old some of the bodies are in there.
Yeah.
Depending on how old the grave area that they that the boss pulled these bodies from.
Yeah, like if they, and we're assuming like again like if because there does seem to be a slight connection to the trench cave and that pile of corpses in there. So
oh yeah, right.
Depending on if that's like connected and like these guys are from like similarly from that kind of pile, we could be talking about like beings from like across history. Yeah. If you want to like back it up a little bit. Since this is a ghost town, since Vulture Gulch was a ghost town that was formed like back in the early in the early 20th century, so we could be looking at like basically the local cemetery or graveyard of Vulture Gulch, and like all the bodies that got reanimated from that. So like we might be thinking like cowboy era onward, like sort of situation. Because if it was a mining town, it's probably from like the early 20th century or like late 19th century. And then
if they're actually pulling from the graveyard of that town, yes.
Exactly, yeah.
If they're not though, if they're pulling from the graveyard that's the pile of bodies under the ground in that other SCP, it could be from God knows how old. So that might actually explain why some of them don't understand what a plane is, or like why Joey Fucknuts is smarter. Maybe he is more recently deceased than the rest of them, so his brain hasn't decomposed as much.
What if he's the last one? So from SCP-38, its name, I apologize. The cave trench one? What if he's the one that the Night Hauler gives the third option to and takes away?
I can see that.
Like I can't remember what that one is. I'd have to like quickly Google it.
We know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, yeah. So and again, like I think that's worth like speculating about, because that is it would explain why some of them are their mental capacities are more degraded than others, because it's also like various stages of decay. So maybe their brain functions are not as complete as others as well. Yeah, no, it's definitely a possibility.
I think so too. So moving on.
Okay.
Okay. So this is after he's like worked on the Actually, how far in is this? Let me check. I kind of need to know that. Okay, this is in the dream. Okay. This is near the start of the dream, where it's describing the area around him, and then it goes on to this. And 5, there's Joey, small, ugly, stupid, and dead. A gross scarecrow of a man, thin and tall. Then it goes on to describe his look and everything. Then at this point, it made me realize, like, it feels weird to go this far. Like, SCP, and then one full story about Joey without getting a proper visual on him until now.
But we all kind of, like, accepted it.
Yeah.
It's so I felt the same way. I was like, wow, is this the first time we've gotten a descriptor of Joey?
Yeah, I mean,
and, like,
of course he's dressed like a World War II like fighter pilot. Why wouldn't he be? But
exactly, yeah.
It's so weird that it took this long to get a visual.
I also love how, like, again, like, none of us none of us like noticed that or cared from previous stories. We just accepted what Joey looked like, which was anomalous.
Well, I mean, it was kind of.
I feel like
even
we all had
awesome. Even awesome in the previous story, he was very lightly touched on what he looked like. Just like he's a huge dude. That's it.
Yeah.
But in this, it goes on to be like he's a really huge dude, and he's like decaying, and he has his clothes made of multiple pieces of different clothes because you can't get a shirt that big. He's like bigger than a person could ever possibly be. Whereas in the previous one, awesome might have just been freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, like a human. Possibility within the range of humans,
but it didn't ruin that story.
No, not at all.
So,
it's strange that we're this far in and we're getting proper descriptors throughout the story.
Yeah, this series is definitely like it's kind of a little bit of an outlier, just in terms of like our reaction to it compared to like how we'd react to other stories that do similar things.
Yeah, I should be furious right now,
but I'm not.
I understand.
Yeah,
I'll move on from that.
Okay.
So the Red Lizard says, "Nonsense, Joey. These are your brothers and sisters. They are the black iron boneheads of Vulture Gulch." Yes. So I like how much in general world building there is in this. Like first, I actually kind of already touched on this. First, the proper visual of Awesome, and more clearly Joey. And now the whole townsfolk has a name apparently that they just pulled out of nowhere.
The black iron boneheads.
With a Z, of course, because it's Q.
Of course.
It's
It's 90s cartoon. Again, the 90s cult. They want their cartoon back.
Yeah. That's another thing, and I'm surprised that wasn't brought up earlier. Like, I'm glad it's a thing.
Yeah. I'm glad that
Where was it last story?
I think it's because, like, these stories are, like, they're technically all one big story. Like, they one ends, and the next one continues. Like, we're
like all stories do.
No, but I mean, like... You say that
when you bought the second book of Lord of the Rings, where you're like, "Oh, this continues."
I mean, again, you say that, but I mean, I have recorded proof that isn't always pulled off well.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah,
I get you.
Yeah, I just like the continued elaboration. Like, we're getting more and more with each story. Like the picture is becoming clearer and clearer, or more defined with each story, and I'm actually okay with that. Whereas,
I wonder if that's going to keep going or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It moves on to when they're chanting as he's like getting in the plane to take off, but they're not saying what his name is. They're just saying they're chanting a new name for the mayor, but they don't tell us. So right away, I'm like, what the hell's the new name? Like, why don't you tell me right now? This is annoying. And then there's the reveal of his name while he's flying, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I can't be mad at that.
All right, I can't stay mad at you.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of had a feel. That's how I felt reading this story.
This is so weird.
I know.
This is already. I prophesized this when I first posted like the SCP entry. Turns out April Fool's was the entire month. Because this feels very odd. Like, this feels like completely off kilter from what we usually feel about like certain stories, and like when stories do this exact same thing, and we're pissed off about it. But for this story, we're giving it a pass, or we're just like, we're not feeling that same vibe of anger.
It's just like, I can't stay mad at you. You're too metal.
Exactly. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my last note is just, thank God he actually flew in this one. When I was like halfway through the story, I'm like, is this title also going to be a lie? Is he not going to be flying in this one again?
Nope, he took to the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the story like almost became like Joey Fucknuts has a midlife crisis.
Yeah, kind of.
Because he has like a crisis of faith, like in like that, and it's only like renewed when he gets like a pep talk by a giant cyborg lizard and a giant wizard lizard that helps him.
Giant Wizard
fight
Lizard
off.
is a great band name.
Oh yeah, giant wizard lizard is definitely my Shadowrun. That's got to be our all Draco form Shadowrun crew.
Oh, can we convince them? You think?
I could totally. I will stop our current superhero game and just tell it. All right, guys, you're all. You know how people have laughed about doing an all trolls game. We're doing an all Draco form crew. I'll put that in my notes for like our next Shadowrun game. That could be our provincial game.
Everyone has to be a Draco form.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. Yeah, that's the end of my notes.
Okay. All right. So first off, if you're wondering what the hell we've been blabbing on about with Eclipse Phase and Shadowrun stuff like that, you can check out our One Less Die podcast, our sister podcast, where we post actual plays of RPGs that we've been playing and running and recording. So plug.
Smooth segue.
And now on to the rest of the show, which is Final Thought. So this was a much longer continuation of the previous story. Like I said earlier, like I kind of feel like if you could make this story a little bit longer by just slapping on the previous one onto it, and it would work. And it has some fun silliness in this story, much like the previous one, that I've come to expect. But there's also a bit more lingering darkness and a brand of weirdness that I've come to expect as well from the SCP entry, like SCPs as a whole, with the introduction of like other SCPs that kind of cross over into this story. So there's a bit more of a rabbit hole situation with the links that are provided in this story, but I don't think these are a bad use of the links. Like I mentioned previously, they are contextualized into the story much better than what I've seen in actual SCP entries that use other SCP entries like as links and stuff. Like it does the work for you, whereas it doesn't expect you to do all the work.
Yes.
I also really like how we get a reaction from the Foundation at the end. I feel like this story would have been incomplete without some kind of like switch over to like the Foundation's reaction, since they have this place under containment. And other than that, I kind of wish that this story, like this series, would go on to be like Uncle Traveling Matt from Fraggle Rock, with postcards just appearing mysteriously in Vulture Gulch with messages and stories from Joey's travels and the horrors that he inflicts on people in the outside world by his simple presence and shenanigans, and then have them be collected by the Foundation, since no one in Vulture Gulch can read and understand.
That's true.
Like, I kind of think that would be a great like spin-off like artifact or piece for this story, is if there's just like or like if you were to use this as a setting for, if you were to use Vulture Gulch as a setting, sans Joey, like as he's off in the world, you could have that as a plot point where like the characters keep getting these mysterious like postcards that just arrive in one of their in a mail in that weird like silver box at the end of like one of their buildings. Like that red flag keeps popping up every day, and there's a new postcard, and it has like an image of Joey, or like has like a place on it. But there's a bunch of weird words and letters and stuff, and they can't read it, so they keep the story, the campaign or the game scenario could be you go trekking out to the wall and asking the agents if they could read the postcard.
Yeah.
and then like maybe like they like the first one or two get read and they realize it's Joey, and then when they take it again to another agent, that agent is like, we're supposed to like, I'm not gonna read this to you. This is an this is some kind of item. I gotta take this shit. and then it becomes a heist game where the Vulture Gulch kin have to like break containment themselves to get those postcards back, so they can understand what Joey was telling them,
even though they can't fucking read.
Yeah. So I guess my final thoughts here was just a little batch of plot growers or kitchen segment. of like how you could use of where I'd like to see the series go. Well, I guess now that Joey has broken containment and is flying away to travel the world, I'm sure we're in the next couple of stories. Something's going to happen that is going to completely break that illusion of that. But it's still the story, like the whole series, still has my mind like going. It's like I'm like with ideas of possibilities and like what's going to happen. So I don't know if it was obvious from my ramblings, but yeah, I recommend this story. It's got some issues that kind of come with like a longer form story, but it's worth it. So, Mikey, D stands for evil. Your recommendation in final thought.
All right. Just thinking about it, Joey Fucknuts is a horrible mayor.
Because he left.
Dare you?
Well,
no, he's leaving to help his people.
Yeah, and he spends months working on his own project.
Everyone else
help
is better
him leave.
Everyone else is well off, like on their own. Like they do their own thing. Like he's actually a really good mayor because he's letting people be themselves, and and helping out the.
They come to him and he solves the problem.
Exactly, and he feels that his mission, like to go out into the world, in the long run, will help his people more than him staying with his people. So you're wrong, and I hate you. But no, that is also a good point to a degree. Because yeah.
And thinking about it, what if Fucknuts is just the title they give the mayor?
Oh no! All right,
okay.
All right, Joey's gone. Chef, you're now Chef Fucknuts. Yeah, could be.
Which is why they had to give him a new name at the end. It all makes sense.
Also, not to get too religious or biblical, but I just now noticed the because I was going to do a counterpoint. I was like, it's like, oh well, like what kind of a leader leaves his people? And I just like looks to Jesus, who.
Good thing you didn't say that.
Yeah. You know what I should do? I should like just have like a log and then have you like, good thing you didn't say that.
Yeah, then people will be like, what the hell did he say?
Exactly. Sorry, folks. It's been redacted for your cognitive safety.
Yeah. So I like this story, although I'm thinking that part of the reason why we seem to be giving this story more of a pass is because we've read the previous stories. We know the character and what the other characters are like, and we know it's a buddy horror. We like buddy horrors, so we enjoy it.
We're all metalheads. We like metal, and this story has been talking about a bunch of hang on, what was the name again? The Black Iron Boneheads of Vulture Gulch.
Yeah.
Which also kind of sounds like a metal band. Black Iron Boneheads.
It really does.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like the story definitely. We are not a objective. Is it subjective or objective? I think it's objective, where we're like
we're not being unbiased towards it.
That's yeah. We're not being very unbiased. But that's never been our show really to begin with. Like our show has always been our opinions and our and our own like kind of feelings toward a story that we're reading and enjoying. So if we enjoy a story, we hope that people like us will enjoy it as well. So yeah, but yeah, I do agree. Like, yeah, that is probably why we're giving the story a bit more of a pass, is because we love these characters. I do now thinking on it, I do wonder if the story, like Joey Fucknuts Takes to the Sky, would stand up on its own without the previous context of the SCP entry and Joey Fucknuts builds a flying machine. Like if you were just to pick up Takes to the Sky and read it, would you, without not knowing anything about the other Joey stories, would you enjoy the story?
Probably not as much.
Yeah, but that's also not if you're doing that, I would say that you're kind of doing it wrong, or you're doing a disservice to yourself. You're also doing a disservice to yourself and the story that's been written.
Yeah,
because it is so much a continuation. Sorry.
Yeah, if you don't realize that there's a link that even links you to the previous story.
Yeah.
In this one, it's like, make sure you've read this.
Yeah, exactly.
So
much like this story itself, we get all very philosophical about the about the essence of reading a story.
yes, and I also liked the SCP entry addendum at the end, where they're just like, oh, we didn't think it would fly.
Guys, seriously, like it's like you're getting court-martialed. But I did nothing wrong. Like, look at the records. Look at the history. Like, what are you doing? Why are you taking me? No. Just,
But I didn't do anything.
yeah, it's like,
Exactly. You
it's
should have
like,
done
we didn't do anything. Exactly.
Have fun in D class.
Oh no.
Wow.
Oh shit. Punishment level 3 amnestics. You're not going to know how to go to the washroom by the time we're done with you.
Yeah. So anyway, continue on. Overall, I recommend this.
Yeah. All right. Gamer, your recommendation, final thoughts.
Ditto.
I mean, that's all. All right.
I can elaborate if you like.
Do you have anything else that I guess to say, or is it just you agree with us?
I mean, yes, I agree with you. I'm curious if this story is going to continue explaining more and more, because this one had a lot of, like I said before, this entry had a lot of extra descriptors that we didn't even get in the previous one. I'm wondering if in the next one it'll describe Chef and Flower more, maybe introduce even more characters.
Well, that's the thing. Are we like this one? We've left Vulture Gulch, or at least Joey
has to.
Yeah, but the rest of the stories are about Joey Fucknuts traveling. So or like doing something. So we're following Joey. We're no longer in Vulture Gulch. So I wonder if we're not going to see Vulture Gulch for the rest of the stories.
It might jump back and forth.
It might. We'll have.
Yeah.
I guess time will tell.
I assume the Dreamcast snuck into the flying machine.
Yes. Agent Dreamcast. I almost said like Sega. Wait, no, that's the Sega Genesis.
Yeah, that's blasphemy there.
Oh no, it's the second. No, the Sega Dreamcast.
No, Sega was the.
Yeah, no, Sega was but no, the Dream. Oh, the Sega Saturn. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say like the Sega
blasphemy because it's not a different brand. Still.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Regardless, I like the story. I like this one probably better than the previous one, just because there's even more descriptors. Any problems that came up were swiftly dealt with, because it's like, no, it's metal, it's fine. Because they were also minor problems that weren't really a problem.
Yeah, and your biased attitude toward metal just kind of like swept that under the rug.
A little bit. This had a little bit more grammar things to talk about, but again, it was nothing huge. Any discrepancies I have with this are so minor, it's not ruining my enjoyment of the story at all.
And this
go ahead.
I was just saying, and this is funny because this is generally how I feel sometimes about stories that you always you go off on.
No, if it's bad, it's bad. Fuck
yeah,
you.
and you're just like, no, I mean, like those are just minor things, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've also said this before. When I'm reading a story, if I'm like tripping over the gaps in logic or in huge grammar things that make it difficult to read, and it's tripping me up and needing me to reread the story repeatedly just to understand what's going on, then that's a problem.
Yeah, because you're
this whole read through, I could just read through it without a problem, and it's just like, oh, those two tiny sentences, they should just be commented out. Okay, continue. It's nothing big.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the story goes.
All right. So that was this week's episode. Tune in next week when we cover Joey Fucknuts believes in himself. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below, or if this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr. If you'd like to talk to us, we're all on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W, because his name is very long.
It's got to be.
And I'm at Review Cultist. If you'd like to send us emails, you can send them at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, SCP-affiliated stories, cryptids, spooky things that are on the internet that you have read or watched, and you would like us to take a look at and talk about. We will do that. It'll be added to the list. If you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to our Patreon. We have Al Dente Rigor Mortis there. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. Like that bad thing in Joey's dream. And like the red and blue lizard from two very different genres of what have you, pushing that back. We very much appreciate it. And to our listeners and the writers of these stories, thank you guys immensely, because without your listenership, it would be like talking into the void. And without your authorship, CadaverCommander, again, I salute you. We wouldn't have the material to read and enjoy and talk about, and I'd be sad. So thank you immensely. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.
And be metal as fuck.